Welcome into the Alabama Football Report. I am your host, RC Maxfield, and after a dominant win over the Southern Miss Golden Eagles, Alabama will head into a top matchup around the country as they will welcome in the Rebels of Ole Miss. But we got to get to those overreactions because, well, it's Overreaction Sunday here on the Alabama Football Report. Let's start with my first overreaction, and it revolves around a guy that had 3 total touchdowns yesterday for the Crimson Tide, 2 via the kickoff return game, and it's Jameson Williams. He is the most explosive player on the Bama offense, and I know some people down in the comments might say, RC, this really isn't an overreaction. Well, I think it is when you talk about the potential talent on this Alabama offense. You think about it. You got JoJo Earle. You'll have John Metchie. You have Jace McClellan. You have other guys on this roster, and now the Alabama coaches have come out and said that Williams is the fastest guy that they've ever timed, right? Going over 22 miles an hour. He is an absolute elite athlete, and I think he's beginning to hit his stride, no pun intended, in this Alabama offense, and he is becoming the number 1 option for Bryce Young in a hurry. I mean, if you ask me, he's the best playmaker on this Bama roster, and to be honest, I don't even know if it's close right now. If you look at what's going on right now on the Alabama offensive side of the football, you have John Metchie, you have JoJo Earle as well, but Williams is just one of those guys that every time he touches the ball, he could take it to the house. Prime example, his stats from yesterday. He had 1 touch when Alabama had the ball on offense, but had 3 touchdowns because he had 2 kickoff returns as well. John Metchie's kind of become that intermediate guy, right? He's not that deep threat, the out guy anymore. And then you see JoJo Earle. He didn't really do much yesterday, but I don't think that was just because, hey, like, you're blowing a team out and you ended up winning 63-14. Sometimes you're just not going to pass the ball. The running backs got a lot of work, including Roydell Williams. But you tell me, who is the best wide receiver on this Alabama roster? Type Y for Williams, type E for Earle, type M for Metchie, and if you want to go with somebody else, type O for other. I'm going to be honest with you right now. I don't know how you go anybody other than Williams right now with his big play-making ability. He is an absolute dynamite threat and will wreak havoc in the SEC, and we'll be able to see it next week when the Ole Miss Rebels come into Tuscaloosa. It will be loads of fun. Got to shout out today's video sponsor, though. Chat Sports is partnering with BetUS for our gambling and everything you need to know, whether that's odds, spreads, over, under, you got it. It's all on BetUS. All you got to do is go to chatsports.com/tidebet, and you can get the best direct deposit bonus on the internet right now. No, you don't need to go Google and find it anywhere else. This is the best one. I promise you that. What you have to do is go to chatsports.com/tidebet. Use the promo code TIDE125 and you will get a 125% deposit bonus. Absolutely ridiculous they're doing it, but they are. Go over and put whatever you can in there, whether that's $100, and that will make it $225, and you can bet on your Crimson Tide all season long. And right now, the Crimson Tide are 4-0 against the money line. Seems like a good bet. And you can bet with our Chat Sports booking partner, BetUS, over at chatsports.com/tidebet. And use that promo code TIDE125. My second overreaction, Jace McClellan is the best Crimson Tide running back. Producer Trace, I can already hear the haters in the comments saying, RC, you don't know anything about football. What are you doing? Like, obviously, it's Brian Robinson Jr. Stop it right there. Jace McClellan is the best running back on this roster, in my opinion. Why is that? He does everything, and he does it at an elite level. He can go between the tackles. He can go outside and be that one-cut back. He can also go in the screen game and be a great wide receiver running back combo out of the backfield. We saw that yesterday after he caught a pass and made a couple Golden Eagles miss. He is the most explosive running back on the Bama roster currently as it stands right now. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know if it's particularly close. I want to see him get more touches and be that primary guy. And this is no disrespect to Brian Robinson Jr., who I think is an elite running back in his own right. But we're talking about Alabama here. This is what they're known for, whether that's King, Henry, Mark Ingram, so on and so forth. I don't know if Jace McClellan can get to that level, but I do think he is the most explosive running back on the Bama roster as it stands right now. Let me know, though. Will McClellan run for 100-plus yards on Ole Miss? Type Y for yes, type N for no. I'll probably say no because I do expect Brian Robinson Jr. to be back. He was held out yesterday for precautionary reasons, it sounded like, after he would have gone through really the game, but the warm-ups and everything, just wanted to save them for SEC play. So I'll probably go no, but if that was total yards, I'd probably say yes, actually. I really like what he can do, and that's going to be a shootout down at Bryant-Denny Stadium with the Rebels coming into town. The next overreaction I have is Saturday versus Ole Miss will decide the SEC West. Simple and plain. I think that's what's going to happen. I think this is going to be the most fun game across the country, and there's a pretty good one in the SEC opposite of them too, when Arkansas will face off against the Bulldogs of Georgia. But this one, in terms of just sheer entertainment value, will be dynamite, right? Looking at it right here, it'll be a 2:30 p.m. kickoff in Tuscaloosa on Saturday. Alabama, the number one team in the country. And I mentioned fireworks, right, in terms of this team and going out and just putting points on the board. We know that's what Lane Kiffin is known for. How about this in terms of Corral coming in to Tuscaloosa? This could be a Heisman-type matchup between him and Bryce Young. Whoever wins this game could win the Heisman. I mean, Matt Corral has been absolutely dynamite. But from a team perspective, talking about the Crimson Tide, if you beat Ole Miss, you go undefeated, in my opinion. I don't think Texas A&M is anywhere near as good with their backup quarterback. And then you're going to meet Georgia in the SEC championship game. We saw what Auburn did, almost laying an egg against Georgia Southern yesterday. I mean, the SEC has good teams, right? I think Arkansas, the most surprising of them all, no doubt. But Alabama is the best team. Ole Miss is really the team that scares me the most because their offense is absolutely legit. I think if you're Alabama, if you beat Ole Miss, you go undefeated. But who you got? Predict the score for me down in the comments below. It's going to be an interesting one in this one just because I do think it will be a shootout, right, when it comes down to it. I don't know exactly what the over-under will be in the long term for this game, but I think when you look at what Alabama and Ole Miss bring to the table, I think both of them are just elite offenses. Alabama has a better defense, but I don't know if it's going to matter against Lane Kiffin's crew and the boys. It's going to be fun to watch no matter what. It feels like one of those old Big 12 shootouts, first team to 50 wins, and we might be looking at that in Tuscaloosa. And if you want to stay in the know on your Alabama Crimson Tide all season long, be sure to subscribe and help us get to 7K. We're almost there. Last I checked, we were about 54 away from hitting that 7,000 mark. This is the best YouTube channel for Crimson Tide news. I'll be here all season long, keeping you in the know on your Alabama Crimson Tide. All you got to do is hit that big red button. The fourth overreaction I have, Will Anderson Jr. is the best overall linebacker in the country. I know what you're saying, RC. Duh, right? Like, duh, right? I get what you're saying. I really, really do. But Will Anderson is one of those guys where his versatility is on another level. Looking at his stats in terms of just strictly from yesterday, messing up that graphic, that's on me, not on producer Trace right there. He went bananas yesterday against this Southern, Miss team that really had no business being on the field anyway. 5 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 1 QB hurry. I truly believe Will Anderson is that guy that is the most versatile linebacker in the country, where he can really do anything. He can put his hand in the ground. He can go back and drop back into coverage. He's great against the run game. I mean, he's absolutely dynamite, and you should love him. You know why you should love him? Go down in the comments and show him some love right now. If you love Will Anderson, type Roll Tide down in the comments. I better be seeing a lot of Roll Tides. If you want to keep it RT for short, I understand. My name's RC, for goodness sakes. I don't even spell out my whole name. I get it. Go ahead and put the RT down there or the Roll Tide if you want to go the whole way. If you love the linebacker, Will Anderson Jr. for the Crimson Tide. The final overreaction I have before I get out of here is the offensive line has fixed their early season woes. For me, I think this is one of those deals where, I mean, you look at what the Alabama offensive line has, right? You have Evan Neal, who I think will be a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. I think looking at what the Alabama line has there in terms of talent, they're absolutely elite, right? But when it's all said and done, I don't know if you can fix your woes against the Southern Miss Golden Eagles team that really had no business being on the field with you, as Alabama showed by covering a 45-point spread. I think when it's all said and done, Alabama's offensive line will be fine. I want to see how they react to really just what happens against Ole Miss, because Neal and the O-line have starting to hit their stride a little bit, but they're not quite living up to their full expectations and potential, which I think will happen soon, but you want to see that against Ole Miss, against the team that really has an okay defense, nothing too special. It's just going to be a shootout, but if that O-line doesn't show up, then you're probably not going to have a shootout in Tuscaloosa. Before we get out of here, hit that big red button and subscribe to the best Alabama football channel on YouTube. I'm bringing you almost daily videos right here, absolutely free. Tell your friends about it. We know there's a ton of Crimson Tide fans out on YouTube. Hit that big red button and stay in the know on your Alabama Crimson Tide all season long.